Hi and welcome to the Booze Baron Show. I'm your host Nick Rose, sitting here fresh out of the shower. On today's show, there's a reason why I'm shirtless. I'm sorry, I should be covering the nipples for this. Today, I want to talk about a very, very, very serious issue in the hospitality industry. Now, this is something that's going to, don't worry, if you feel like I'm missing points, like I'm only addressing one aspect of what we're about to talk about. Calm down, cool your boots. This is a multi-part series. I'm today trying to focus on some context and some history, because what we're talking about is one of the big dark secrets, and it's not very secret, but secrets of the hospitality industry. One of the things that make this industry difficult to deal with. And it's not something like pay, it's not stuff like unpaid overtime, bosses taking advantage of us. No, it's predominantly actually to do with customers and co-workers. What I'm talking about is basically harassment. Sexual harassment, sexualization, objectification, all these lovely little buzzwords. Now, yes, hi, white male, anyone watching the video can definitely see am male, but the lack of a uterus in the hospitality space doesn't preclude you from being harassed or assaulted. Now, this isn't some MRA guys get harassed too sort of, well, you wouldn't call it a post, but episode. What it is trying to get the industry itself to have a bit of a think about where we came from, where we evolved from, and what sort of hangovers we've carried through in the past couple of 100 years. So let's talk about hospitality, where it came from. I mean, there were sort of two major channels that we came out of. The first is, of course, the serving class. Some of whom, not that long ago, were owned property. But you have to take the serving class and slavery and kind of separate that a little bit, because the serving class, regardless of property or ownership, did come from serfs, did come from people that didn't really have much of a say, weren't highly educated, weren't professional, weren't valued by society. And valued by society is a very, very key point, and I'm going to keep coming back to it, so I'm really, really sorry if you get sick of me saying it. I know this is getting almost political here, but there is that channel. The other channel, of course, is the publicans, and very, very importantly, the whorehouses of society. Now, these were definitely more the free market enterprise side of things. They were the people that were allowed, I guess you would say, or managed to achieve the ability to serve people freely. They made money. They took money from people, usually well off, in exchange for alcohol, in exchange for food. Travelers would get food and alcohol. But very, very, very importantly, most publicans were men almost exclusively. In a lot of society, those who were women, let's just say bawdy houses is more accurate to pubs when compared with pubs. So they were far more sex-focused than they were necessarily alcohol, food, and friendly traveller-focused. But the friendly traveller side of things, basically, that meant that you had a man, sometimes he had a wife, often they would hire local girls or vagrant women that were, not getting married. Perhaps they had a child out of wedlock, that sort of thing. The point is they were there to be objects. They would get paid very little. The majority of money that they would make would be through having sex with clients, of which a cut would have to be given to the public in any way. So there was this objectification thing going on a long time ago. It was an exchange that you come into a venue that serves alcohol, the women there and the men are there to be of service, shall we say. Now, we go back to that other channel, the serving class. I don't think it's really that much of a stretch to think that Jane Austen and her friends kind of missed the life issues of that whole class when writing. I mean, they tend to brush over or talk about the scandals involved when someone has slept with someone, below the stairs and that sort of attitude, but in reality, this was a very common practice, and it does date back to the concept of, prima noctem, all this sort of thing, where lords were given the ability or the right, the legal right, to treat people underneath them that served them food, that dealt with all that, as property. They owned their servants. The freedom of serfs and the serving class was never really all that legally recognized. And one major part of that was, of course, using them for sex. So we've got this big hangover, this massive hangover of an entire industry being built around two channels that devalue the individual's kind of rights, are more about an exchange of money or a better life for serving the customer. And the customer, historically, is someone who has money and is able to feel better about themselves because they have this service. They're not alone. They're not, traveling and road weary. No, they're there being comforted in every aspect, not just food and drink, but sexually as well. Now, if we remove that whole historical element and just kind of focus on what's going on today, you can't. You can't cut away this history, because the whole industry itself, we often will be disregarded, treated as somehow uneducated. The majority of, people in the hospitality industry in Australia are trying to get their degree. A whole lot of workers are out there studying law, they're studying fine arts, studying medicine, but it's good to work in a bar because you can do it without interfering with your studies. So they're not stupid people. They're not uneducated people. They're not people whose value is solely in the ability to make the customer feel good. And even those that aren't studying university, those who skipped it entirely, are not uneducated, unvaluable people. Yet we still have this hangover, this expectation in the customer, and very stupidly in management and bosses, that if there is an exchange of money, then almost anything kind of goes. You don't have to respect the person. You don't have to demand they wear a shirt. You don't have to, hire someone based on their skill when you compare it to how they look. Let me give you an example. Very early on, when I had my old cocktail bar, for those of you who have been watching from way back when and still liking and commenting on the whole how I failed or not, how not to run a bar kind of video, thank you so much. It really does mean a lot that you guys are jumping in and talking about it and asking for advice on what to avoid as well. But point is, when I had that bar, I'd been open maybe 18 months, and a very good friend and businessman, there was a bit of a party going on, it was entrepreneurs, all that sort of stuff. A very good friend and businessman came up to me afterwards and said, there was a comment from some of the ladies that you don't really flirt enough. To which I said, well, yeah, I've got a girlfriend at home. Why would I be flirting with a bunch of cougars? I didn't say a bunch of cougars. I was sort of like, why would I flirt with women that I don't find attractive? They're not my kind. I mean, I know they want to flirt and they want to feel good, but how is them paying for a drink that I'm spending time and effort, creating as a cocktail mixologist, how is that an exchange that then gives them the right to expect flirtation? Why are they allowed to believe that because I'm serving alcohol, because they're paying me money, my ability to get a tip is directly proportionate to my skill at making them feel desired? So much so that I'm supposed to forget my partner or my own desires. Why does being behind a bar or carrying drinks as a waitress or being in hospitality make it okay for people to assume that all of me is somehow for sale? Integrity, body, all of it. And his response was, well, if you want better tips and you want to make more money in your business, then be more flirtatious. If there are women in, then you flirt with them. You hire prettier women so that when men are in, they'll spend more and they'll tip more. And this tipping thing kind of got to me, because if people tipped in my bar, I didn't take any of it. It was for the staff or for when we went out and bought drinks, or sometimes I'd use it to save up when we didn't have any stuff and it was just me. I'd use it to save up and buy a better kind of house pour the next month, you know what I mean? So it's not like I really got much out of the tips, but this tipping thing is a big issue. I mean, some people in the industry are talking about it internationally, but in Australia we need to talk about it, and frankly everywhere. It's an overhang from that same old period. Bear with me with this, right? The idea that someone provides a service and they get paid a salary for it, that's normal. That's capitalism, that's socialism, it's everything. All the isms out there, that kind of works, apart from perhaps anarchism. But, you know, we'll leave that aside. I don't think there's much business going on there. Now, why is it that in the hospitality industry, it's then okay to reward someone for doing their job beyond what they're getting paid? Now, traditionally, they're not getting paid a lot. That's a fact. But why is it still okay for that to happen rather than a customer merely paying more for their food and drink, knowing that there's a better salary for the staff? Why does tips matter? Why is it a customer to employee direct relationship? And if you really analyze it, there's only one reason, and that is because as a customer, when you're out, and you're at a venue, at a restaurant, whatever, you get to feel that sense of power of rewarding the person working in hospitality. That poor, struggling student, that, you know, sad girl that never quite made it as an actress. You know, you're there helping them. You get to be the one providing directly. It's not the boss. The boss is a cunt. You get to provide directly. It's a sense of power. It's actually an exertion of ownership over that individual, right? You are saying to them, I get to reward you. You did well. Good job. It's not a particularly inspiring thing. Like, we all work hard for tips. We love the tips because it's cash, and none of us really declare it for tax. By the way, Australian Taxation Office, I swear I declared all my tips. But we don't really analyze it. Tips aren't a good thing for us. They're not a good thing for our industry. What they do is allow us to continue along this ancient old idea that, you know, the customer and their money is more valuable than us and our integrity and our value. That what we do intrinsically is so low value that we have to perform, you know, better, we have to flirt, we have to be nice, we have to do all these wonderful things in order to get a reward direct from the customer. They have power. And it's not like your boss or manager is really going to support you because they've been brought up in the exact same culture. So when it comes to something like harassment, and this, tying it all back in because we're just doing part one here, talking generally before we go into the really dark and serious stuff in the next episodes, but when it comes to your manager and the culture that they came up in, think about this. Young worker in the industry, getting a little bit, you know, harassed by the clients. Not harassed, but propositioned maybe. Like, hey, what are you doing after your shift? When do you stop working? You know, you're really gorgeous. Hey, I'm just amazed. You're so great. Can you keep pouring the alcohol? It's so inspiring to see someone like you, you know, working. I mean, you're so much smarter than I expected. These sorts of compliments, they're nice and they're flirtatious, but if someone feels uncomfortable because they have a partner or they're not attracted to the customer, they come to their manager or their boss and say, hey, I'm feeling a bit awkward about this. Now, if they're a man, they'll probably be laughed at. It's a fact. It's just, you lucky bastard. How dare you complain about being hit on? I never get hit on. That sort of attitude, which is not okay. It's really, really not. Okay, no one should be made to feel awkward regardless of gender. Now, if they're female, they will often have to pretend like it's okay, like deal with it, because their entire freaking life they've dealt with this shit. Like, it doesn't matter about the industry. They will deal with it wherever the fuck they are, and that's not okay in the freaking slightest. Like, it is so not fair. But you take them, and their manager's response is usually something along the lines of, yeah, it happens. Or, did you get a good tip? At least they're drinking well, they're spending money, just keep them happy. Keep them happy. Keep them fucking happy. And that's the issue. Because it's all about keeping the customer happy so that they spend money in the venue, because we are trained, coached into this belief that customers won't pay more. We're trained into this belief that customers are fickle and they're going to disappear, and we have to have them. We have to treat them well, and we want their best 5-star Yelp review. We want them to review us so damn well on Facebook that, just deal with it. Deal with the harassment. What, they groped you? Oh, well, just it's okay. Just stay away from them, but serve them and be nice and smile and everything, but just move away quickly physically. What, they grabbed your pussy like fucking Donald Trump? Well, the guy's tipping like crazy at the moment. He's just given us $100 tip. That is prostitution, for fuck's sake. Like, it doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. If you are being asked to let go of your own dignity, let go of your physical space and how happy and comfortable you feel, to ignore your own kind of initiative with regards to a sexual interaction, then that's prostitution. And the worst bit is, prostitutes actually kind of get rules. They get protection. Not a lot. Like, the sex industry is really, really not the best example, but it's better in terms of how the industry itself can kind of help workers than the hospitality industry. Because as long as the customer's tipping and they're happy and they're spending big, management don't want to hear your complaints. Now, you take that worker that I was talking about before that went and just experienced their manager, their boss, telling them that a little bit of harassment is okay. There is a bar, especially if you're a guy. It's like, good on you, good luck. Oh, mate, just keep working it for the tips. Like, you are so lucky. Keep working out. Go to the gym, get fit so that you can get them, right? There's this bar of acceptable harassment. And as soon as we allow there to be this bar of acceptable harassment, that means that the worker that sees it, the next time they're managing, when they kind of work hard, get the role, get to manage, get to run the place, and someone comes up to them, oh, I've been harassed. How do we respond to that? Or how does he respond to it? It's part of the job, mate. As long as they're not really violating you or raping you, it's okay. Like, just deal with it, take their tips, sell them loads more stuff, upsell them to the expensive stuff, flirt, make the money from them. They're the suckers. Tell you what, they're not the suckers. We are, as an entire freaking industry, for believing that we have no power in this, and that somehow we have to put up with it. And the only way to get back at them is by taking more money from them. That is not the way. You're better than that. You have dignity, you are intelligent, and you're worth more money than minimum wage and some tips. I'll talk to you in the next episode. Hey, try and make this one where I wear a shirt, right? Talk to you soon.